and all that really sort of conventional. And my journey has been anything is even within a more conventional container, it's still, because, right? So it leads itself to, to start asking the questions. And I am very much now of the purpose, at least for myself, that, and it has to do with the way that you're built, because, understanding, obviously being able to understand, the mechanics of how things work at large, but also your own mechanics, for me has been an absolute game changer. Like the insights and the awareness that I have managed to experience since I discovered human design, without having to go through nearly as many, without making nearly as many mistakes. Because while making mistakes is important, if you're aware of a way that you can do it, which is a more aligned way, then the likelihood of making mistakes is reduced, or just the severity of the lesson that you are meant to extrapolate from that particular experience. So I find that, and it also has to do with, like, we're in a very different space collectively on an energetic level than we were even 15 years ago. And what's actually happening is the planet is literally moving through the universe, right? Just like it moves around the sun. Our solar system and every other solar system is in a larger cycle that continues, and it's cycles that get bigger and bigger, and cycles that are smaller and smaller, right? And there are these patterns that stack upon each other, and they expand for infinity in both directions. So now wrap your mind around that one, right? So we think that the atom is or the electron is the smallest particle. I don't think so. It's just that the equipment that we have, that scientists have at their disposal, that's the smallest particle that they can see. And it's just the same thing as going in the other direction, right? Because space literally goes on for infinity. So in 10 or 15 years, they're going to invent, they got the James Woods telescope. In 10 or 15 or 20 years or 30 years, whatever, they're going to invent a more powerful telescope, and off it's going to go, and we're going to be able to see further. So,
what do you think? What's the smallest particle?
I don't think there is the smallest particle, because it just keeps going, just like it keeps going out. It's just that, scientists have been proven over and over and over again over the last few hundred years that, first we thought it was this, but no, we were wrong. We thought it was this. Like, there's no end. It's consciousness. It's always, right?
Is it possible that light photon is the smallest particle? Because if you think about it, if you truly think about it, light equals consciousness equals love, right? Mm-hmm. The whole universe is based on light, consciousness, love, because they are synonyms to each other. Mm-hmm. Find the love within you, find the light within you. You're going to find the consciousness, right? All of these are not just related, but they are synonyms on some levels. And so if that's true, if consciousness is the base of everything, then the light photon is the smallest thing, right?
Well, I mean, it's the smallest that we've been able to see, but is a photon. Okay, so I'm not like super versed in science, but is a photon on the same level as an atom, or on the same level as an electron?
I think it's what builds up the how they call them in English? Do they call them quantums, like the particles that build up the electrons and photons, no, the electrons and protons. The light photons build up those particles.
Okay, so then but there's also the quarks, and there was another one that what they called the God particle.
Or maybe that's what I meant, the quarks, like the light photon builds up the quarks, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So my expertise in quantum physics is somewhat limited to just a few concepts, so I'm not sure. But
I'm just asking because I was curious. What's your take on that? Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question.
Obviously, I haven't seen it either, so
what we can say is that at least going in an outer direction, we know that it's because physicists say that the universe is getting bigger or is always expanding, and the reason why it's always expanding is because consciousness is always expanding, and because consciousness needs to keep consciously expanding because it needs to realize itself out of this version of form. Because within the form, it's so well disguised that it's forgotten that it's actually a wave, that it's actually energy, right? And that's the fundamental or the foundation between Einstein's famous equation, which basically states that energy and matter are interchangeable, right? Because you have the whole, the observer effect with, and this idea or this phenomenon of collapsing the wave function. So you're going from wave to particle, and then back to wave. Yeah. So and when you start thinking of it from that standpoint, it's just, the possibilities are absolutely endless in terms of what can be created, right? Because that's physical proof that manifestation is a real thing. You go from a conceptual idea in your head, like I want to be a freaking, I want to drive a Maserati, or I want to build a movement to help, to bring, to help people expand their own awareness. And I'm going to do this via a variety of different means. So for me, for example, it was starting this podcast, and that's, because I wanted to talk to, because this is such an interesting topic to me. It's actually more than just interest. It's actually like deeply embedded in me, and I just get a massive amount of joy sharing this material, but also experiencing it in real time with other like-minded people. So, right?
No, that's beautiful. Yeah. That's beautiful that you share it with others to help them on their journey. And I think that's a really important aspect of what we do as coaches, or as even just friends or family members, to help others if they want to be helped, right? That's also very,
because it's the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but right?
Yeah, if it's not thirsty. Yeah, absolutely. And this connects back to the fact, I think, that it's not about awakening. I mean, it's about awakening, because that's one of the goals here, what we experience, right? But it's the journey how we get there. And this is why some people are seeking out help, and that's where we come handy or useful, when they are reaching out to find something to help them get out of the miserable situations that they are in, because they know that there's more to life, because they know that there must be some magic that they haven't seen yet. And that's where we come in, and we can guide them. But this is Jesus as well, right? He was awakened. He showed us that it's possible to be awakened, but he never told us.
He was super awakened.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was like Superman, man. Right?
Yeah, but he never wanted to be this figure who we think about that, wow, he is God. No, he just wanted to show us that we are all gods. That's what he tried to show us, that this state that I am in, you can achieve. but he never gave us the blueprint. He never gave us the exact steps and path to get there, because the whole purpose of this experience is to find your own unique path to that point. But we can always use helpers there, right? Like we can always ask for help. We can always have, as I like to say, in the game Sims, there's always a cheat code. Like we can have our own cheat codes. We don't have to do it on our own. We don't have to awaken on our own tonight. We can use people who can guide us there, and that way we don't have to feel alone. And um, yeah, that cheat code that can come from the above, from our guides, who are more connected to them or to their higher self, but it can also come from the 3D. And basically, those people are also our guides and higher self and future selves and
Well, yeah, and that's the that's the whole thing, is because there's another piece that I've kind of figured out too, and it's about activations. So, and this is where, because if you take your birth chart, it's kind of like the blueprint of your DNA, like your energetic blueprint. But I'm talking about on like a quantum level, and how everything else kind of works together, because this isn't a linear experience. This is a multi-dimensional experience, and you can have any number of dimensions interacting with each other at any given moment. It's just a question of, because you can be in the third for 10 seconds, at least I can anyway, because this is where I live. My mind is so not linear, and I kind of get the feeling yours isn't either. Like you can do linear things and you can think in a straight line, but when you're really tapped into your bliss, like it's here and it's here and it's here, and it's kind of like, I don't want to say all over the place, because that would indicate some kind of discord, but it's more, you know what I mean? It's more it's more following the breadcrumbs that kind of occur to you in the moment. So I'll give you an example.
Okay.
So I'll be walking down the street and I'll see a car drive by, and it'll make me think of, say I see a Mercedes drive by, and then that'll make me think of something, it makes me think of like, oh, that would be a cool car to drive. And then you start and then I would start imagining myself driving it. And then it would go from driving the car to like where I'm driving the car. And then, you know what I mean? So it's
imagination, or
yeah. And it kind of
projection. You can project yourself into different scenarios.
But I mean, it can even be more of like a day-to-day thing. Like, you walk into the kitchen to get a glass of water, and you completely forget why you're in there. And it's like, oh yeah, I came in for a glass of water. And then you look over and it's like, oh, there's dishes that needed to be washed. And then, so you go over there and you start washing the dishes, and you're like, oh shit, I'm out of dish soap. Damn it. I got to go, I got to go to the store to get groceries, but I haven't eaten yet. Oh shit. I guess I got to make some, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's just, you're having like all these different conversations in your head at once, just depending on what dimension you're in. If you're in so that example would be like a day-to-day, practical kind of thing. Whereas, the seeing the car driving down the street kind of puts you into more of a daydream, right? So you're not necessarily always following like a linear kind of way of thinking.
Yeah, but nowadays they like to judge it as bad, doing that, like just doing whatever comes to your mind. But I don't think that that's a bad thing to any means. I actually think that that's the whole purpose of being here, just following whatever we want to do in like then and there. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have plans and we shouldn't um, do what we say we're gonna do, but it's not a bad thing to do
No,
15 different things at once.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Because with your energy type, you're actually meant to do it that way.
And it's about judgment, right? Like nothing is bad or good. And we are not here to feel bad or experience bad things. We are just here to observe. We are the awareness. We are the
Well,
observer.
well,
So
that's,
in that way,
I was going to say, that's part of it. But then there's the other piece where, okay, so if we're experiencing something that we don't want, so say it's an emotion, and this is how you create liberation from suffering, which is to become the observer and to become detached from the emotion, not to the point of not caring, but just observing it and allowing yourself to feel it and to experience it. We're not analyzing it, we're not judging it, we're not dissecting it. We're kind of tracking it, we're kind of experiencing it and feeling it. Now, but when it comes to conscious creation, now we're talking about a completely different process. The process starts from that standpoint of the observer, but now what we're doing is we're consciously directing our energy in a given direction, for the purpose of creation. So in your case, you felt called by the fact that you just loved the idea to facilitate ecstatic dance, cacao ceremonies, and meditation, right? And it's natural because your gifts and talents are naturally drawn to those types of activities. So for you, it was a no-brainer. Like you didn't even have to think about it. You heard this, oh my God, like, yeah, like, like your cells are just brimming with high vibrational energy, and your aura is like 100 feet wide kind of thing, because you're living your you're living your bliss, you're living your purpose. And so that is the apex of conscious creation. But most people are not aware of, they're not aware that they even have, it's an option. Like I didn't know it was an option for me until I came across this work, right? I mean, I kind of knew what being spiritual was, but I didn't understand any, so when I actually started to consciously understand that, well, yeah, you can be at cause. You don't have to be at effect. And what that means is, you are the one who is taking charge in honing your, you're taking charge for your destiny. You're taking responsibility for everything that you do, say, and think. And the sovereignty that is created is, so now you're consciously choosing not to hang around certain personality types. You are consciously choosing to go to the gym because you love it, and you're making that a priority. You're making doing this, you're all the stuff, you're making it a priority, and it's effortless because you fucking love it, right? So this is the apex of, and I mean, I'm sure there's days where you don't feel, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know for me, there's days where I don't want to go to the gym, but I know that once I get there, I'm going to feel great. So
I would actually flip it to say that I'm not going to the gym because it makes me happy, but because I change my intention, it makes me happy. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to the gym because I know it's going to make me happy. I'm not going because of the end goal, but I'm going because of the intention that I'm having to go to the gym. And I agree that it's true that we consciously can create what we experience and what we want to experience. Absolutely. I could not agree more with that statement. But to get to that point, I think we have to observe our thinking, and we have to have to decode our reality.
well, it's like,
Because, yeah,
go on.
because decoding where we are at and why we have that goal and decoding our own thoughts will allow us to get there. And that just means that we are the observer. And the more times we can get back to that realization, the easier it's gonna become to stay there, and the easier it's gonna become to decode our reality, our thoughts, and um, get what we want. Because if we are actually able to decode the patterns around us and inside us and break them, then we have the freedom to build up our own ones. And this is why I'm so invested in all the activities I'm doing for myself and for others as well. Because if you think about it, I mentioned earlier that um, whatever we experience outside, that's also an experience inside us. And when I do stretching through yoga, I'm stretching my own limits. I'm stretching my own mind. Every pose that I'm doing will get me closer to expand my mind as well. Because now, yoga is not you. In yoga, you can't do a pose not because your body is incapable, but because your mind limits you to go deeper in that pose. Because your mind stops you because it thinks that you're gonna break your bone or you're gonna break your things because it's not used to that thing. You are stretching your body, you are stretching your mind at the same time. And so that really helps me observe my body, my limitation in my body. But at the same time, when my body is occupied, I can focus on the limitation of my mind as well. Hence why I'm doing yoga. Hence why I'm doing meditation again to help with that decoding process of my reality. Yoga, meditation. That's why I invite different medicines like cacao. That's also a really helpful method to open up my heart and perceive more of this life for the decoding method. Um, yeah, I just wanted to say that it seems like that what you are using the that map, that blueprint for, that's also a kind of decoding. Um, right? Am I right here?
Well, it's bringing an awareness like up front, and then it's allowing people to reverse engineer everything. So you've got the blueprint, and then when you start, as you start to familiarize yourself with what's actually in there, you start to notice these things about yourself, and then once you've experienced, and you're consciously aware of the bliss, or the flow, or the alignment in whatever part of it you're working on, or whatever project or whatever activity you're doing. You start to recognize what is truth and what is a distortion. So, and the distortions are the conditioning that we grow up with, that whether we learn it from our parents, or from from our school experiences, or TV, or society at large. But it's also, there's also inherited energetic imprints from, and these can be ancestral. So it's really, I mean, it's such a layered and dynamic conversation. Like, I mean, we've been talking for almost 2 hours now, and we've barely scratched the surface. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And something else, I've noticed a trend since we've been on the call. It's like, so it's like, if I go to ask a question, or I start a thought, it's happened 3 or 4 times now where you have finished the thought. And there's been this really, I don't know if you noticed that, but there's been this really kind of interesting kind of co-creation, which was really the intent. But yeah, but just to go back to, and just, I just want to offer a little nuance. So yes, while the awareness is, I mean, the awareness is always there, and it's just, but I guess it just comes to down, like, in the moment, what it is you're focused on. So if we're in creation mode, or if we're in building mode, we're going to be more, it's kind of hard to explain, but it's like a merge between the two aspects of us, between our masculine and feminine aspects. And so it just creates this perfect mix of these two polarities in our body to go and do whatever it is that we're meant to do. So if we're meant to be in a more of a, in more of an observing, and that's really what it is. It's really, it's not like you're not observing and you're in creation mode. That would because that would indicate that they're separate, but they're not separate. It's just when you're in more observing mode, you're more taking a very neutral kind of yin sort of approach. It's a very yin sort of stance. So you're going to be more. There will be a masculine aspect, but it's more of a yin type of energy that's present when you're doing that. Whereas when you're in full motion, it's going to be a little bit more yang driven, and that's just the way that these two energies kind of flow together. And this is when you are in full alignment with who you are. Because as we're able to remove, it's not even about removing. I think it's more about remembering, because we already have everything that we all need that's inside us. And when we work with, doing things the way I do them is just, I have found it made things for me a lot easier by having a blueprint. And, some people refer to it, and some people just like actually, being in the experience of discovery, or being in the experience of remembering, right? Because when we take, again, at least in my experience, when we take or just even the experience of experiencing ourselves for the purpose of experiencing ourselves, right? Without any, because that being the intention. Okay, so now my intention is just to experience having a conversation with you, because I felt like it would be a great experience, and naturally I'm going to be drawn to want to experience that. So it's about as neutral as you can get without, it's kind of a paradox, and really it's not something I don't think it's something for the mind to really put too much stock in, because when we start thinking, then we start thinking in concepts and stuff instead of actually just being here and enjoying the experience for what it is. So, and then it comes back to this contrast of both being the observer and the observed at the same time.
Yeah, I think everything you mentioned, for me, it just comes back to the decoding, right? Because, okay, you have an intention of doing something, or you have a motivation to do something, but there must be, like, that's a code. Why? And then, okay, you are in the flow state. Why? It's a constant observing and decoding, I think life is. And you mentioned to get to that flow state. I think actually that flow state is in the present moment.
Well, yeah.
We like to think that, oh, meditation, I'm gonna get to that flow state, or doing, I don't know what drugs, you're gonna get to the flow state. But actually, if we match the frequency of this present moment, we are able to get to our flow state, whatever we are doing.
Well, yeah. I think really what's happening here is that we're just using slightly different language to explain to describe the same thing, because when we're always, so here's the thing, it's always the present moment. It's never not the present moment. It can't be.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. But our mind can be somewhere else.
Well, exactly. And this is part of that. This is part of that mind that's living in what if, that's living in past and future, that's living in judgment, that's living in this, that's living in whatever, right? Because we're and this is again why I like using the blueprint, because it brings people back to the present moment. And I mean, that's really the core thing here and something else I like to explain to people is that time is just well, first of all, time and space are really, they're two halves of the same thing. because space is not absolute, time is not absolute. And this all has to do with relativity and blah, blah, blah from a scientific standpoint. But if you actually look at it, like, space fabric, it's not, it's like blah, 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 right? It's malleable, it's flowing, this is why you can collapse time. And you could, for all I know, you could think, I want a freaking $1 million, and then you walk outside, poof, you trip on a briefcase full of euros. You're like, woohoo, right? Obviously that's a very unlikely to happen, but it's possible, right? Because of the nature of the way reality actually is. It's not this, we only think it's fixed because we work in a linear fashion. So I get people to start thinking of it as, and this is where the flow state comes in, because our bodies, our essence, our field is going to have its own natural flow. Now, whether that lines up with linear time or not is a subject to be experienced. But I find that I call it quantum time. Some people call it galactic time. So it's time, but it's not time as per the Gregorian calendar.
Time is an illusion, right? Like time only makes sense from our viewpoint. If we zoom out, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, yeah.
Actually, yeah. But I wanted to add that actually I think it's a good thing that if you think that we're talking about the same thing, but we use different words, because I think different aspects layer it, but also it will help people to understand on their level and through their view and perception. So that could be super helpful for people to understand the concept when they hear it differently and with different words.
Absolutely. Because and it's not so much about the concept, but just however, and this comes down to energy, because the way that you communicate something is going to, might land differently for a certain group of people that are experiencing on a certain energetic bandwidth that more resonate with the way that you communicate versus, there could be a group of people that resonate more with the way that I communicate things based on how their energetic signature is. And if you put the two of that together, there's probably an even bigger amount of people that would resonate with what we're both saying, slightly different, but because it's very, in my opinion anyway, it's very much in line with, it's just slightly different, language. And it's not so, and you know what, because it's not so much the language itself, it's the energetic imprint that is embedded in the language. So when you're coming from a place of alignment, it's going to land a lot more. And there's this, so I really like to work with this concept of resonance. And so you don't even have to say anything, and you could be in the room with somebody, and they're gonna either your signal is gonna resonate with them, or it's gonna repel them. And it becomes a lot more, in my experience anyway, it becomes a lot more black and white. Third dimension, lots of gray areas, lots of open to interpretation. But when you get to a certain point, it's like, okay, well, either you resonate or you don't.
I don't see that black and white. I see everything as a scale. You can resonate with me 45%, you don't have to be 0 or 100. I almost see everything as a scale. Basically everything. Is it 100% white? What's 100% white? That there are so many shades of white. Nothing is like black. What's like, okay, we say absolute black, but maybe it has also 3 shades, right? Absolute black. I see everything as a scale. I actually made a TikTok video about it the other day. That's why I'm so passionate about it, because we like to think about everything as 2 points to opposites, but in between two opposites, there's a whole scale of things. And if we accepted that, we wouldn't be as judgmental as we are, because then we would accept everything as it is, and we wouldn't judge based on, oh, is it black or white? We would just accept it that it's somewhere on the scale between the two. And that's the same with uh, our emotions. Like, okay, we say, oh, I am so much in love, but love has so many aspects, so many different scales. Oh, I'm so sad. That has so many skills. Oh, he is straight, he is gay, but like it's not black and white. You don't, not like you, but like one doesn't have to be gay, one doesn't have to be straight. It's a scale. And if we would accept that it's a scale and you could be anywhere you want, we wouldn't be as judgmental as I think sometimes we can be.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's definitely truth to that, but more what I'm getting at is in terms of how I experience, because that also has to do with where people are at, and it has to do with boundaries. So, for example, I have very specific boundaries with people that I will work with. And I'm not willing to compromise. So either they're a fit or they're not. It's that simple. So they can, there can be a scale in terms of resonance for sure, but in terms of what I have decreed as for my own personal experience at this point in my journey is that I'm like, I'm not, I'm very cognizant of my energy and my time. So I want to work with people who are going to lift me up, and I'm going to feel energized working with. Whereas working with people who are indecisive, or they're in that kind of, so where they're in a gray area. So it comes down to they've made the decision to do the thing or not. And you can be in the process of making a decision, but until you actually make the decision, you haven't made the decision, which is fine. And I'm not knocking that, and this is why I'm agreeing with you. But so it's kind of like this, it's kind of like a paradox, because either you're in or you're not, and it just depends. It depends on what degree of the scale that you're at when you have that cognition to make the decision to proceed with whatever it is you're doing or not proceed, and then you have clarity. So the black and white is the clarity, or you're still working on the clarity. So
very interesting.
And the still working on the clarity can be on, there can be a whole scale of it. It's just like with, I don't know if we talked about this, but if you look at your chart, you have a breakdown of, you have yin gates on your personality side and on your design side, and the same with yang gates. And then it'll give you a ratio of yin to yang in both your personality and your design. And so for some people, it could be 50-50. For me, it's 65-35 yin to yang. So, most of my field is on the feminine side, but my masculine side is it's less. It's less in a proportion, but it's very concentrated. So when it comes out very, very direct and very whatever, right? So you have this. So it's kind of two concepts or two realities that kind of layer into each other. And the second reality just being, you have you're a little bit clearer on what you want and what you offer, and and for some people and it really comes down to the experience. So like I said, for me, like there's certain people I just will not work with because for a variety of reasons. And because I'm more interested now in working with people, and this is regardless of anything, whether it's dating, whether it's with friends, whether it's with any kind of partnerships, is that the number one thing for me is a high level of alignment, right? And so this goes back to why I asked you if you wanted to be on the podcast, because I felt a really good resonance between the two of us. And when we were on that live together, whenever it was a week or two ago, like I felt very much in my element, with your company. And again, I thought it would be a great addition to the podcast. And evidently, here we are, an hour and 45 minutes in.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so that's kind of my take. It's kind of like a like I said, it's like a paradox where both are true, and it's just understanding how each one would kind of fit together.
I have so many thoughts about that. And it's interesting that you have that view, because who needs the most of your help? Not necessarily those people who make you feel high vibe and high energy, because usually those people are the ones who overcame themselves and who, like the high vibe people, right? They need our help less or our guidance less. It's rather the people who are on the path and they are so lost. Usually those are the people who need our help. And again, another aspect of this is, okay, if they don't resonate with you, that could be a question of why. That can be something that you can decode. Why are they in your reality? There must be a reason why. Why is it not? Why are you not on the same resonance with them? They are there to teach you something, if that's the case. And then the third thing I wanted to add here is that I agree with you that we go through this life, and it's important to read the energies and know what those energies try to communicate to us. And if that person is not matching our energy, why that could be. And if they want our help to get to a higher vibration or to get to another point, another energy point, I think I see it as my duty to help them, even if I feel like that they are not necessarily raising my vibration. Because I see myself as a guide to help people to raise theirs. And reading this, can I just add something here? Actually, it just came to my mind that reading energies, right? Last night I had such an interesting dream, and maybe you can help me decode that. But okay, I dreamt that I am an angel and I had aspects of me in a diagonal shape projecting in front of me and after me in all colors possible. And so I was one angel, but I had the projections in front of me and after me in all colors possible. And I was dragged in a room where there was a flashing light, an extremely fast flashing light, and it caused me so much headache that I was forced to like lay on the floor. And I decoded those patterns of light in my dream.
Oh, wow.
It just came to my mind because you were talking about energy decoding. And as the light was pulsating, I saw words coming up and decoding them. But I didn't, like, the words don't make sense. Like I saw TJEE, like words like that don't make sense. But the first light just pulsated and I was decoding. It was so interesting.
All right, well, let's find out.
Say what is that?
It's my cards.
What are they for?
They're for decoding. The
Oh,
tarot,
amazing.
tarot cards.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder what they're gonna say, because obviously I had my own perception of this dream, but I thought that you are also very deep in this world. So I was interested what's your take on it. It
Well,
was, and I had
I
so
think
much pain.
yeah. So I think it's layered to start with, but I also think it's just like I think it has to do with getting downloads, and I also think it has to do with downloads not necessarily activating right away, because that's often how it works. Is like you'll experience like, you know, you'll experience something physically, like it could be like a or a moment of bliss, or like a really high charge in your nervous system or something. And trust me, like this for me is like a regular thing, like almost. It's not happening as much now as it was, say, 3, 4, 5 months ago. But like March, April, May, June, I was like the charge in my nervous system was just through the roof, and I was like floating away, and like just like these insane, you know what I mean? And it was just all these new energies that were preparing to land, because I had a major astrological event happen about, I guess it's going on 5 months ago now. So, and it's a big one.
What happened?
Um, so I had my Chiron return. So
Chiron?
yeah,
What's that?
Chiron return is well, Chiron is an asteroid. It's out there somewhere, and its cycle around the Earth is around 50 years. So
Okay.
I had my 50th birthday earlier this year. And now for some people, it's within a couple of years of your 50th birthday. Mine just happened to come 3 weeks after my 50th birthday. So, and it's just been a lot of, so you just got to make sure these are all the right way. So what it does is it brings a complete overlay to finish, just to clean up any last aspects of things that need to be integrated. And so, I mean, without getting it, because we'll be here for another 10 years for me telling the whole story, but it brings in it's like a massive transit. So it brings in all these new aspects that it's kind of like upgrades to your nervous system and your field. So what it does is it starts to replace and dismantle things that have been there previously. So it's like this decoding process, but on fucking steroids.
Mm.
And there's a lag, because we live in a time-space reality. And so what that means is like there's a period for integration. So you remember that chamber thing that I showed you when we were on the live?
Yes.
Okay, so I have since rebuilt it, and the coherence, the transmission coherence is increased by about 25%. So so the signal now is far cleaner. It's amazing. I've only had it up and running for about 3 days, and and I've done a couple of sits, and just the quality of the it's amazing. So yeah, it's just this, it's a whole part of the journey that I haven't really talked about a lot, because there's just so much to, there's so much to decode, right? And in terms of yeah, so I'm expecting, like things have already started shifting. Like, I met this other woman. I've been doing some lives, I've been getting some great feedback. Oh, by the way, I do think doing another live would be fun. Just yesterday was a little crazy. So okay, so let's decode this dream, and let's see what comes out of it. So
Okay.
we're still good for time. So okay, so
We have like 6 minutes.
yeah. Okay, I need to give these another bit of a shuffle because they're coming out too much the same.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's decode Jazz's dream from last night and let's see if we can gain any insight.
I don't
Okay.
actually use tarot cards. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the first card is the Temperance reversed. So these kinds of cards are what are called the majors. So they represent big themes.
All right. Exciting.
Four of Pentacles. So this is all pointing to the theme of ill content, disharmony. Now, which way it's going to go, we've yet to be seen. Because
Well, that's in yeah.
So we have the
That's
High Priest.
That's interesting there because I was dragged into that room. I didn't want to go. I was dragged there. They held me, and they pulled me in the room where it was that flashing light. And it actually hurt me so much, the light, that I must have said something out loud or cry because I was woken up.
Okay, so this makes perfect sense then. So Temperance in the upright means harmony, balance, flow, all these great things. And this has to do with your conscious evolution or the expansion of your consciousness. Now, in your heart has been cracked open, from being very restrictive and very protective and very, it's been torn open. And if you're experiencing any emotional whatever, that means that's your heart purifying itself. So if you find that you get emotional from time to time, that's why. So think of it as a purification, as a cleansing. Trust me, I learned this a long time ago. And so whenever I get upset or whenever for no reason, I just go back to my heart, I drop in, and I just spend a few minutes there. So now action wise, this is the High Priestess. So this is all about going within. This is all about tapping into your intuition. This is all about looking for those deeper integrations. It's about really, really tapping into your feminine and embracing the contrast between what you have thought to be as truth versus what actually is truth, and uncovering the hidden sort of variations. So, and it's been in a very, from the way you've described it, and I can pull more, and clarify the more the flavor of it, but it's very much like this is a big thing that's happened that you're.
It felt huge.
Yeah, right.
It felt so real, and it felt huge. And it woken up me from my dream.
It's because it's because it is real, and it's what's been happening. But it's also pointing to there's more to uncover. And I think it has to do with this idea of flow and control. So there's aspects of you that are still, and it may not seem like it because it's very subtle, because you have a very gentle disposition, but there's these subtle aspects of control that over time you in order to expand, because you've taken on a lot of information over the last however many years. And it's really now it's about allowing your field, or allowing your body and your nervous system to really integrate these truths. And because the depth in which you can integrate them has absolutely no limit. So what this is, from what I'm seeing here and from what you're telling me, that this is, it's pointing that you're on the right track, because the overall energy is the Queen of Wands. So somebody who's very mature, somebody who's very in tune with her own divinity, and somebody who's very outwardly, right? Because these two cards would indicate that it was coming from a place of, out of whack. And based on your story, that's the case, because the outcome is a wish fulfilled. So it doesn't really get much better than this, right? Because you are basically embodying what you have set out to do. So if I pull a couple of clarifiers, yeah, there was an uncertainty about taking a leap of faith, but you did it anyway. Moving to Hungary, or moving to England, you did it anyway. There was a piece where, part of you was, and probably still is, there's a part of you that is, and you may not be aware of this, kind of waiting for your, and it's not, and this is not a, this is kind of so this is where the multidimensional aspect comes in, is because it happens out there, but it also happens within. And as you know, you have to experience it. So I think what it's pointing to really is just to continue what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. At the moment, when it happened, it wasn't the best experience, but my interpretation of it is super positive. But I think we are running out of time here.
Yeah.
But it was an absolutely blessing.
Absolutely, my dear. So what I'll do is, so I'm gonna officially say goodbye, but so I'm stopping the recording now.